And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host on the St. Paddy's Day, the luck of the Irish, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Where's your green, man? Where is your green? Why aren't you wearing any?
Here's my green.
Oh, that doesn't count. We both know that doesn't count.
So listen, St. Patrick's Day is a festival, is a religious cultural holiday for the patron saint, St. Patrick, the foremost patron saint of Ireland. What? I'm American.
Yeah, but
I'm American.
It's still a holiday.
And you know who the ultimate patron saint is? His name is Jesus.
Wait, was Jesus a saint? I don't know about that.
No, but why would I pray to a saint when Jesus died for
me? Yeah,
my
but we're not paying to a saint.
We're not having a religious debate here, but
we're drinking and enjoying Irish heritage.
So you're sinning and getting drunk on a religious holiday. Yes. Oh, okay.
Exactly. That's
because the patron saint was the Son of God, so he's the one that wipes away your sins. Okay.
Yes.
Nevertheless, we are look, first off, I love St. Paddy's Day. Yes. I never got behind the green beer, though.
Green beer is gross. I'm not a green beer fan. I don't really get the whole green beer bit.
I'm not a green beer man myself either. I'm not a beer man in general.
No.
But in all seriousness, to all those who celebrate Conor McGregor in the White House today, did you see that? Probably the most Irish thing that you could have done on a Monday. But nevertheless, happy St. Paddy's Day to all of those and to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I guess we're talking about the ACC tonight. Maybe it's a sign from St. Paddy himself that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish should go to the ACC. Joe, we'll talk about top 5 quarterbacks. We'll continue on our quest in the P4 conferences here of the top 5 quarterbacks in each and every conference. We'll talk about some spring football, Clemson and Miami, which Miami, man, goodness, a lot coming out of Miami. Of course there is, coming out of spring practice. Oh, and by the way, we got to start off tonight's show. Deion Sanders off the top rope with arguably the best call in college sports offseason in the last 4 years. In case you missed it, let's go to it here first, Joe. Deion Sanders in his press conference today said that they have a spring football game on April the 19th. He said that he wanted to practice against a team a couple of days and then have a spring game. He said 3 things. Number 1, it would satisfy the public's need for a spring game. Number 2, it would get our team actual reps instead of competing against one another, and it overall makes everyone better. On the response to that, Fran Brown, the Syracuse head coach, came out and stated, I'll come for 3 days. Pause. But he did say that he would go there for 3 days. Joe, I got to be honest. I am 1,000% behind this.
Yes.
At every
minus the last part, minus the pause that you threw in there. But yes, I'm absolutely
okay. I am behind this. I am behind Deion. Why is it that a guy that's been, quite frankly, in a P4 situation less than any of these premier head coaches? Well, by the way, Steve Sarkisian's running away. Matt Rule's running away. All these coaches running away from spring games. Deion with the ultimate solution. I am all for this. What says you?
Well, so the biggest part for me is that what you just mentioned, that we're seeing all these really soft moves, these soft decisions for how they're going to navigate around the issues with spring football.
Yep.
And Deion Sanders' pitch is the best one. It's, hey, we want to play and we want to actually go out there and play in a more competitive environment. He's actually going in the opposite direction. He wants to create more competitiveness by going up against another school. And this is something that we've loosely talked about. It doesn't have to be Syracuse. It could have been Colorado School of the Mines. I say that kind of jokingly, but Northern Colorado, fly in a FCS program and square off with them. Or maybe it's another FBS program that's looking to get competitive reps, somebody that you probably would have no shot of playing against, like Syracuse. I thought that this was intriguing listening to Deion Sanders talk about it, but then seeing Fran Brown jump into the mix, seems like there's actual momentum. I don't know, though, if there's some sort of bylaw or hurdle.
What's the NCAA going to do?
Well, that's a good point. I just don't know if there's something that gets in the way. I have no idea. I don't know.
I do think for most programs, money would get in the way. Like with TV revenue share coming and schools about to have to pay all this money, I do think money will get in the way. But, I mean, get the money from – I got an ultimate solution. You ready? ESPN, you're going to get the ratings. People are going to tune into this. go and get the ratings. By the way, Deion Sanders this is the three things for me. Number one, he listened to the people, and it's a massive PR win for Deion. He understood the situation, and he did it. But number two, he understands the situation for his football team. And listen, everybody's going to wanting to go to the NFL model of things of preseason.
Yeah.
What do they do? What does most teams do? They scrimmage against teams week 2. The team that comes in, they'll scrimmage against them. They'll practice against them. Who cares that there's fights? So what? That's going to happen. Good. But you know what you get? You get you're not going up against your team, and you can make solutions now, right? Like the solutions get made now. Hey, I got an issue at right tackle. I can't run him out there and do that. I better make a solution now. Joe, I vehemently hope that this gets traction. Like I pray to God that this, of all things that have changed in college football, this is the one thing that I think everybody would be behind. By the way, I posted a poll 10 minutes ago just for LSU purposes, but just in general. Joe, it's at 75% of people said that they want to see this. Yes. Another 12% said they don't care. So you have a large chunk of people that would be remotely behind this.
Didn't LSU cancel theirs?
No, they canceled they're not actually having a game. They're actually just doing practice, like an open practice. So instead of a 1-hour game, they're doing a 2.5-hour practice, which
I mean, difference. It's all basically the same difference.
But here's the thing, though. The thing about that is BK said on what's today? Monday. He said on Saturday that it had nothing to do with tampering. He said we literally last year had to take a whole practice to prep for the spring game. Why wouldn't I just go out there and practice then? Like, hey, we're just going to make this our last practice. If you're not going to let me play against somebody, you know what? I'm not going to use one of my practices to like practice on the spring game. Like, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go out there and practice and let it fly, and we're going to tackle and we're going to hit. Okay. I mean, they did not cancel it. It was just more of a different way about how they're going about it.
Right. But to go back to Colorado, yeah, I hope that there's nothing that gets in the way. I mean, I'm really intrigued by the fact that Fran Brown jumped on this, and Fran Brown's as smart as Deion Sanders is. He's an understanding on how to capitalize on momentum, on exposure. A lot of people have been talking about, and we even talked about the hype that Fran Brown has coming into the season. Go ahead. Sorry. No, that was it. Just play into it.
It also sends a message to your team that we'll play anybody, anywhere, at any given moment. Dude, let me just say this. I have a son. And if I see, if Fran Brown is recruiting Ben Ruffino and I see that on Twitter, I'm going to tell Ben, listen, we're going to start talking to Syracuse a little bit more, because that man's going to have my child for at least 3 to 4 years at minimum. Right? So look, I know that he's going to build my child to have character and build him and mold him into being a man. We all think it's about money, and true, it is about money. But at the same time, I want my child to have character and be taught the right lessons that need to be taught. So, man, could you imagine 2 days worth of practices? Like, you have a team coming in and you get to see another team and your team gets to go up against another one. Joe, it would sell in college football. And here's the truth. College football fans need a win. No, like, how many times are we going to go through realignment, playoff expansion, auto bids, revenue share, decisions being made about conferences because of money? How many times do majority of fans get losses before we actually get a win here? I think this would be a win. And Deion's right when he says this would satisfy the need. And guess what? It's exhibition.
Right. It's low stakes. You don't need to play your starters for most of it.
No.
You play them for a quarter or a half, and then you get the backups in. I think that'd be the best part for this, is getting to see and getting exposure for the underclassmen, for the freshmen, the sophomores that aren't getting on the field. That's a building moment for those guys. That is a progression point. That's how they get better, is not by just going up against the same dudes every single day in practice, actually getting the chance to go out there and square off and hit somebody else that they barely get to do during the regular season unless they're playing like an FCS team, which also barely even happens.
Joe, last thing that we'll get rolling here. Let me tell you a quick story. I was at a practice on Saturday, LSU's practice on Saturday, okay? Mm-hmm. BK lost his shit because a DB literally broke on the route before the receiver broke on an out route. He's literally breaking on he knew the play was coming. He knew exactly what was coming. And he's like, you won't do that in a game. Guess what stops that?
Not knowing what your opponent's going to be doing?
Not knowing what your opponent's going to do. And then guess what? You get an actual look about where you're at. It's the smartest thing that you can do here, man. Look.
I'm all for it. I'm all for
too.
This.
Look, I will go heel. I will argue this until the crows come home. I want this to happen. This money. Look, and here's the thing. You don't have to do it. Like, let teams that want to do it, let them do it. If you don't want to do it, no one's forcing you to do it.
Well, I think here's the final piece with all this, Blake, is that the broadcast networks always have the most control in these situations. They're the ones that are going to be the driving force if something like this happens or not. This game's already scheduled to happen on ESPN2, as Dion said in the quote that he had. Why not, if you're ESPN, I'm hoping Deion Sanders is actually calling somebody at ESPN and saying, like, hey, we want to do this. Can you help us make this happen? Because, again, they have the most sway. Any of these networks are going to want to broadcast these games. There are – I don't think anyone would say no, but there'd be plenty of room to find places to put these things on air. I would think
you're
at the end of
middle
April,
on ESPN too. What are you talking about?
Well, no, but like I'm saying that I think that space could be cleared up to find even more room to broadcast random games across these spring games, these spring matchups in the future. I think that you would have a lot more entertainment.
You're putting Colorado on ESPN too. That's my point. Like, could you imagine? Let's throw out a random one. Could you imagine Florida going up to Ohio State, or Ohio State coming down and practicing Florida for a day or two or three, whatever it is? Could you imagine that? The buzz around that would be ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. So I'm with you, man. All right. So let's do this. Let us get to a quick break. When we come back, Joe and I are going to break down our top 5 quarterbacks in the ACC, and then we'll talk about some key tidbits in spring football in the ACC as of right now. Let's talk about our good friends, though, over at betonline.ag. Everybody do us a favor, though, during the break. Hit that like and share to all those groups if you're on social media, into all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube or on Rumble. By the way, you know there's a new richest team of all time. Did you see this?
No. Oh, you're talking about the LSU Tigers and the fact that they've got
2019 LSU Tigers have exceeded $1.17 billion from the 2019 team.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
I'm
not surprised.
Okay, let's not argue about something. Can I tell you how awesome it was to like be a part of this? Like,
well, to have covered them is what you're saying.
Yeah, like it's by far the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I mean, you have the number 1 and number 2 receiver in receiving yards and touchdowns on the team. Burrow threw for more yards than anybody. By the way, Patrick Queen, nobody talks about. He just got paid $40 million. I mean, no one wants to talk about that. But
because he's okay. He's a decent linebacker. He's not a great one. But no, okay, but you're right, though. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are the
that entire offensive line got paid. Damian Lewis got paid. Lloyd Kushmary got paid. Austin Deckles signed a contract with the Texans. I mean, 0-1 Miami gets blown out. I'm here to say it.
Okay, that's definitely not true. That's definitely not true because the talent on that roster was.
Are you going to pick Joe Burrow or Ken Dorsey? That's where I settle this argument.
Yeah, but the fact that they were too deep on the roster on that 0-1 team that went on to be first-round picks, like that's where it gets crazy. Because after that year, it kind of thinned out. Like who was still on the roster after the national championship game?
Jamar Chase.
But he didn't play.
Just because COVID didn't happen doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know if LSU
19 LSU beats the shit out of 0-1. Brother, you better go back and watch it. They almost lost to Boston College.
Wait. But the conversation that you and I are having here is about the talent on those two teams. The two deep.
Okay,
the backups.
Throw Jets and Chase. You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
I'm not an idiot.
You're an idiot.
Those two guys. Okay, whatever. We're not here to talk about that.
You're an outright idiot. All right, here we go. Joe, our top 5 quarterbacks in the ACC. You're 1 through 5. Who do you have?
I've got number 1, Cade Klubnik from Clemson. Number 2, Carson Beck from Miami. Number 3, Darien Mensah from Duke. Number 4, Kevin Jennings from SMU. Number 5, I kind of talked myself out. I talked myself out of it a little bit, but I'm going to stick with it. Eli Holstein from Pitt.
All right, my top 5 here. Cade Klubnik at number 1. Carson Beck, number 2. Kevin Jennings at number 3 from SMU. Darien Mensah from Duke, a.k.a. Tulane, transfer who got all that money. And number 5, I have Haynes King out of Georgia Tech. Let's start off with the inevitable here, as our good friend TJ in the chat from College Football Addiction says. Let's start off with Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik being the top of the list, Joe. And one of the guys that it could be a Heisman finalist here at the end of the year. He comes at number 1 on our list.
Very plainly, Cade Klubnik is, I would argue, has the highest potential out of any quarterback in the country this upcoming year. I really have a lot of faith that he's going to go on to be the first overall pick in the upcoming draft. Woo. And if anyone wants to, shake their head at me and go, "Oh God, what's he talking about?" If I would implore anybody on the end of the 2024 NFL draft, I'll pull up the tweet. I tweeted that Cam Ward would be the first overall pick in this upcoming
I remember
draft.
this.
I have stood on this, and I think that Cade Klubnik has the same recipe for what Cam Ward had. Very different circumstances, but showing a year-by-year progression and improvement and having the tools to really take over. People forget that this isn't just a good passer. This is a great athlete. He ran for 463 yards last year. He had 3,600 passing yards, over 40 total touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. Their receiving room is only going to improve this upcoming season.
Yeah.
A third year with Garrett Riley. If the defense isn't all the way there to playing up to the offense's level, Blake, I still think that Cade Klubnik can carry them pretty far.
Let me throw this at you because I agree on everything that you said. He's got how do I want to say this? I don't want to say that people don't think that he's an athlete, but he sneaks up on you with his speed, right? You see him running away from safeties and DBs sometimes, and you're like, damn, man, this kid can move a little bit. He made even in the Texas game, let's go there, against the number 1 passing yards allowed defense in the country, he lit them up. That receiving core got better as the year went on. And we'll talk about them in spring. Joe, it's a big highlight of what they're talking about. That room, they think that they have knocked that out of the park there. And guys going into year 2, bringing in a transfer, they think that their room there is fantastic. Here's another thing that I want to add to that. And I kind of didn't realize this a lot until I started really looking at them during spring. Joe, they have 4 seniors along their offensive line. The other is a junior, a redshirted junior, so technically a senior. But 4 of the 5 are seniors. 3 out of the 5 are graduate seniors. So guys that have been here for 5 and one that's been here for 6 years. Here's the thing with Klubnik that I would say that I think would hold him back to play a little devil's advocate here. Joey, 63% completion percentage. There were some games and situations where, okay, not on him completely, he's got to be better at taking some of the stuff that the defense gives him. If he's going to take that next step, which, by the way, I do think he takes that next step.
Yeah.
He's got to take those easy throws, right? He's got to take those easy throws and get the yardage and when the play is broken down. Now, I do think that for him, we kind of, going into the season after the Georgia game, a lot of people wrote him off, right? Like, man, same old Clemson. They got better every week. He got better every week. Joe, he is the catalyst of that team, not just the offense, the team. Of course he is. He's the quarterback. Joe, I agree with you, actually. Unless Arch Manning comes out, I do think that he could be definitely in talks of being the number 1 overall guy.
And I don't think Arch is coming out from
I don't either.
My understanding. I think he's going to probably stay 2 to 3
Manning's always stay until they're seniors. Yeah. They don't need the money.
Yeah.
Here's the truth on him, though. The one thing that I got to see from him is making some better decisions under pressure. Everybody's got to do it. He needs to pick up that completion percentage, but at the end of the year, Look, that Texas game was his best game he's ever had in his life, in my humble opinion. If that is the Cade Klubnik that I get, then Joe, I don't know if there's a better quarterback, not just in the ACC. I think you have to have the discussion of, are there a lot of quarterbacks better than him in college football?
Right. That's my whole point. And I think when we look at this just entire quarterback group for this upcoming year, we don't have any fully baked cakes. We don't have any done recipes. Like we've got guys that are all 3/4 of the way there. This isn't like the Michael Penix, Bo Nix year. And where we are, well, and we didn't, most people didn't even know at the beginning of the year, though, that Jane Daniels was going to be as good as he was. And same thing for JJ McCarthy.
Listen to Ruffino and Joe show.
Okay.
We
get your point. But that's like an example of a year. And there's plenty of years over the past 10, 15, 20 years where we kind of have an understanding of who the premier guy is going to be.
Yes.
And there's a lot of room for growth and improvement. So I'm going off of these guys. If you guys are paying attention to these lists that we're projecting, I'm going with the players who have shown me ridiculous highs and have the potential to continue to play into it and to continue to improve. The biggest thing for me that I felt held them back at times, and I know his completion percentage wasn't great, is he had a young receiving core. And the young receiving core was getting better every single week. And at the end of the season, it was one of the most underrated receiving rooms in the country. And I think Cade Klubnik, as he starts to be more confident and poised in his own abilities, they take that next step. He takes that next step. He checks every box that we always talk about and we look for a kid to go on and win the Heisman and to be a top 10 pick.
Here's the question I have again when we talk about, because we do kind of talk about them going into the season a little bit on these rankings. Who's going to win that running back slot? Who do they have somebody? I mean, Joe, listen, what was their problem? On both lines of scrimmage, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't run the football in key games.
Good point.
Phil got hurt, and you tried to put it all on his shoulders, and it's why the completion percentage did come down. Okay, because you're throwing the ball all over the place. Who wins that? I mean, he can't do it on his own. You need that success there. But here's the thing for me, Joe. Remember 2 years ago, well, technically it'll be 3 years ago. Remember that Florida State game? And they were about to win it there at the end, and he made one of the worst boneheaded decisions. We came here like, what is he doing? Why did he throw that? Why not give the ball to Phil Maffa? He turns around, and Joe, he had 6 interceptions and 40-plus touchdowns. That is
ratio.
That is an insane ratio. By the way, he had 2 fumbles. So even if you want to go 40-8 or 41-8, that's still absolutely insane ratio. Okay, you're right. Look, it's going to be interesting to see what Clemson does here, but I do think that he's one of the best quarterbacks just in the entire country. At number, and he clearly for us is number 1 in the ACC. Joe, at number 2, we have Carson Beck out of Miami, and I know that this one's probably going to get a lot of treadway. But maybe when people see this clip, they're going to be like, "Oh, they're talking about the Carson Beck drama." Do you want to address the Carson Beck drama?
No, I don't. Actually, you know what? Just to very briefly touch on it.
Okay.
I hope that he's not getting distracted.
Well,
I hope that he's not getting distracted.
Okay.
I'm going to put it very bluntly. I hope that he's not getting distracted.
Well,
it sounds like he is.
Let me stop you right there. I do this to every quarterback. It doesn't matter. Joe, if he's having these distractions, we talk about Caleb Williams having the distraction when he was at USC. We talk about all these quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders, when they have these distractions and then their play drops off in these bigger games. Joe, he doubled his interception ratio a year ago at Georgia. A lot of people want to blame Georgia for that. They couldn't run the football. Joe, in every big game against a ranked opponent, he had 3 interceptions. It is a fact. He did not get better. He's still on Snapchat. Here's the thing for me with Carson Beck, though. He goes to the podium, Joe, and says, "I don't like watching football." So
when did he say that?
Remember at the end of the year, he's like, "No, I go home. I'm not watching football. I'll watch the film. I don't want to have preconceived notions." He was talking about going into the Texas game. I do go look up people in the chat.
I think I remember what you're talking about. I don't remember exactly.
He is at number 2 for me because of what he did 2 years ago and even what he did last year. But, Joe, his interceptions doubled. What Carson Beck's going to show up is the big question for me.
I think one strong indicator that why I feel like Carson Beck is going to play even better this upcoming year.
Well, he's not in the SEC, number one.
Well, sure, that helps. He's going up against later competition. He's not going to have the same level of like receiver talent to turn to because Elijah Arroyo, the tight end, and Xavier Restrepo are in this upcoming draft class. So he's not going to have the same guys to turn to.
Still, and Horton went to my Alabama.
Yes, so Horton's gone as well. When Cam Ward came into Miami, one of the things that people had with concerns with him is that he was a risky decision maker, that he made poor decisions and he turned the ball over too much. He had a lot of fumbles. He threw 7 interceptions. And what helped Cam Ward take this next step was that Shannon Dawson, I felt, helped him be a lot more composed in the pocket and to not turn the ball over as often. He had the same amount of interceptions, but he was a lot cleaner. He was taking the right risks. I think that Carson Beck, having a better receiver room that doesn't have one of the most egregious drop totals in the country, and also being in this position to be coached by Shannon Dawson to set him up to make less stupid mistakes, I think it's going to help him take a step forward. I really thought that Mike Bobo was a driving force in some of his worst games, and I stand by it. The play calling was shit. We talked about this with Garrett Nussmeier yesterday and how we gave him a pass because we didn't think play calling. Well, we weren't giving him a pass, but we were providing context for why some of the games he didn't play as well. I think that Carson Beck was sold out in a lot of games because Bobo was not doing an effective job of establishing the run, and then he felt pressed and he was making dumb mistakes. Dawson's not going to allow that to happen. I think Dawson is going to actually set him up to succeed.
I get what you're saying, but 9 interceptions in 3 games is not all on the coordinator. Because
I understand that. I'm not saying that's all on him.
No, it's not. And listen, like, do I agree with you on Bobo and play calling situations? Yes. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. But I don't agree. Like, this is the visual that I have in my brain. The visual I have in my brain is the first Texas game where when the outside receiver, the fast one, I can't remember his name, but
Isaiah Bond, or are you talking about?
No. For Georgia, Smith.
Oh, Smith, yeah.
Smith runs the hitch route. Joey misses him by 7 yards and the ball gets picked. Right, like those, and so I'm trying to ascertain, like, you had distractions. You've had distractions this offseason. I feel like, yes, that worked for Cam Ward, okay? But Cam Ward, to me, felt more locked in than what I'm seeing at the current moment. That's how I feel about Carson Beck. Now, to get on the good side of it, Joe, I mean, he's got more experience in this, I say in this conference, but as a quarterback, he's got more experience than anybody. So, again, I put him at 2 because which one shows up? Now, I do think the turnovers reduced, not because of him or Shannon, and I love Shannon. He was at Southeastern with us. I think they reduced because of the schedule that he's going against. Not so much maybe him. But again, like when you were talking, the only visual I had in my mind was, well, that first Texas game, I mean, you're making some of the worst throws I've ever seen. It's a hitch route, Joe.
Well, okay. Again, not all of the mistakes are completely off of his back and all on Bobo's. But the other part about this, I think you bring up the really easy, low-hanging fruit talking point. His worst games came against the toughest opponents that they saw.
No doubt.
Except for like maybe Florida. Ole Miss, he threw an interception. He had 3 against Texas.
No, he had a pair of picks against Florida too.
Well, no, he had 3 picks against Florida.
Right.
He had 3 interceptions against Alabama. The only game that I would argue is not an excuse is the 2 interceptions that he threw against Mississippi State. But this final stretch of games were the cleanest that we've ever seen from him, where against Tennessee, it was the old version of him where he had 2 touchdowns and 347 passing yards. Against Georgia Tech, he looked completely changed. He had 5 passing touchdowns in that game, and we were talking about, hey, he's back. They're going to go on a national championship run.
Well, then he goes the first half against Texas and lays an egg.
I wouldn't classify necessarily laying an egg, but
didn't he have only 70 passing yards and a half?
He had 56, but he only had 13 passing attempts up until that point. So he hadn't gotten into a rhythm yet, and then he blows out his elbow. So like I'm not.
That's a whole nother thing that we haven't addressed.
The elbow thing is where the actual concern comes into play, because I think up top he's smart enough and he's good enough a decision maker. If he's in the right circumstance and his guys aren't dropping every single freaking pass, his numbers are going to improve. The turnovers are going to go down. But the elbow thing, like he could be throwing ducks. There's a shot that he could go out there and he could start throwing ducks. And I'd be curious what happens during the spring game and how he looks during the spring. Oh no, he's not even participating.
Yeah, he's not even participating. And so here's another thing.
So we're not going to know until week 1 against Notre Dame if he throws a fluttering ass pass against the Fighting Irish.
Exactly. Here's another thing. You said something in there that you think up top he's a good decision maker. Cheating on the Cavender twin is not being a good decision.
Talk about a dumbass, by the way.
Right. Like, so you're saying
he's been in Miami. He got lost in the sauce. He's been in Miami for 2 months.
He had his Lamborghini stolen, and he cheated on arguably one of the hottest co-eds, that everybody talks about.
A girl that he was lucky to be with in the first place. A girl that that every dude on this planet was wondering, how did his ugly ass end up with her? He didn't have the judgment to understand what he was losing. So that was worth it. It's all I'm going to say.
That is my point. We talk about him being a good decision maker. He's a bad decision maker on and off the field.
Well, he's turning over girlfriends. He's turning over the football. he's an impulse decision maker that makes bad plays.
Really? All that blood going to that. Never mind. I'm going to leave that alone. All right.
Okay.
At number 3, I have Kevin Jennings. You have Darien Mensah, but I have Darien Mensah at 4. Let's go to him.
Okay.
Joe, the Tulane transfer from that now finds his way at Duke made a lot of headways this offseason with allegedly getting paid close to $2 million in NIL to leave Tulane and go to Duke. He's respectively at number 3 and number 4 on our list here. Your thoughts on Darien Mensah and what you saw last season?
I remember when they played Kansas State last year, Blake. I was rewatching that game because I was trying to get a pulse on Kansas State. I was trying to also see like what happened, why that game was so close. And every time I watched Mensah drop back and watch him evade pressure and watch him aggressively take shots and drive the football down the field, every time I was saying to myself, holy crap. And I was texting scouting buddies. I'm like, have you seen this kid? This kid is a true freshman playing at a G5 program who was a 3-star. Mm-hmm. Have you seen this kid? And I found out pretty quickly that after that game alone, he picked up a lot of interest, hence why he moved on to Duke as quickly as he did. And I actually would have thought that Mensah would have ended up somewhere bigger. And I think that there was interest from bigger programs, but he had an academic aspiration to go to Duke. Mensah is, I think, going to put a lot of people on notice. I think
Tulane, it's hard to transfer out of there because of the academics part from there too.
Right. Yep. It's worth noting. My final point with this, though, I know that the supporting cast at Duke isn't exactly astounding, but Darien Mensah has the tools to elevate everybody around him. Just like Riley Leonard did 2 years ago when everybody was talking about how the heck is Duke doing this against Clemson. I think Darien Mensah is going to have a couple of games like that this year.
Let's not mistake it now. Duke went 9-3.
With Malik Murphy, who was inconsistent as hell.
Right. And it's not as if that they didn't go in the portal at wide receiver either. They go and get Anthony, the senior. They go and get Cooper Bark-8, the junior, redshirted junior. They bring in Mensah. Their entire offensive line is returning. Their tight end is returning. Their running backs are returning. I mean, Joe, they added some pieces on the offense, but the problem that we would have with that and coming to Duke, Joe, they're 9-3. I mean, they play good football. And by the way, they had Miami on the ropes with Malik Murphy. In reference to Mensah, look, I think the kid more than exactly what you said about turning heads and what he did last year, Joe, he had to put that entire team on his back because when their head coach left and went to Houston, Willie Fritz, and they rebuilt, he was the stabling force of why they continued to win, why they win that conference, why they continue to do some good things offensively. Look, man, this kid is going to be – he has the potential to be something special. You're right, though. I do worry. I mean, it is Duke, right? And it's going to be interesting to see what he does there. But I think the kid can play. And they're going to knock off somebody they shouldn't because of him. And that's going to be the question. What team? Lowly old Duke. Okay, this kid can play. He is really good, so you better watch out.
Yeah, I think everybody is good. Anyone who's not like in the weeds as much as we are, I think a lot of people are going to be suddenly just stunned. They're going to be like, who's this kid at Duke? Who's this doing all these things at Duke? There's going to be some casual ACC fans that are going to be learning about Darien Mensah, and they're going to be learning the hard way. I'm really curious when we do that preview, which will probably not start up until May when we start doing our top 25 previews. I'd be really curious to kind of project how they're going to do this upcoming year. I'd be willing to be bullish if they went 9-3 this past season by playing hard-ass defense and getting a couple of nice games from Malik Murphy. A 10-2 season, a 9-3 season is more than doable.
Hot take. If Mensah plays in that game against Miami,
they win.
Yeah, Duke beats Miami.
Easily. I mean, the separator for me was that Murphy wasn't good enough of a passer.
Exactly.
Take advantage of the shit secondary that Miami had.
That's my point. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do at Duke. We're both pretty high on him. Joe, you have Kevin Jennings at number 4 from SMU. I have him at number 3. The playoff starting quarterback returns for SMU, a team that did go to the ACC championship game a year ago. Joe, Kevin Jennings did not start the season, but came in, kind of made a name for himself. Your thoughts on what you got for Kevin Jennings?
Yeah, I think Kevin Jennings won. Great for him for coming back and understanding that there's an opportunity to capitalize on the momentum to maybe get back to the ACC championship game, maybe get back to the playoff. I think that this team this upcoming year for SMU could be even better because they were going from being a 1 year removed of being a G5 program. Having a little bit more time to develop and recruit at a higher level is going to help set them up. And we've talked about their recruiting efforts. Kevin Jennings, to me, I think is a little close to his ceiling, but he is exactly what teams need from their quarterbacks to win big games. He's a great athlete. The way that he was described on a lot of broadcasts, I thought was perfect. He's like watching a point guard play quarterback.
It's like watching Rajon Rondo.
Seriously, he's kind of ducking in and out, and then he finds somebody and he's just distributing the ball. He's not going to take the deep shot and connect over the top because he doesn't have a huge arm, but he's just super tactile and smart at setting up his guys to make plays.
What a pull, Rajon Rondo.
That's a great comp. It's the only one I would use.
I don't think he's hit his ceiling because of all the turnovers he had. He had six fumbles last year and he had 11 interceptions. 17 turnovers is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I get worried about that. That was kind of where I had a lot of pause.
Yeah. The thing is that when you have a guy with that level of athleticism and he's got that many turnovers, my question becomes, can he learn and fix those mistakes or does he stay the same? There's never really with someone that's got the athleticism as him, they never necessarily digress. They always are going to stay around the same or they're just going to flat out get better. I do think that under Rhett Lashley in a year 2 situation, the reason I don't think he's hit his ceiling, and here's a hot take. You're not going to like it. If there is somebody that can push Klubnik at number 1, I do think it's him. Because there's something that he has that nobody else on this list has. Now, Haynes King does on my list. The athleticism part is what would scare me. Because, Joe, if he starts making better decisions, like, hey, look, I got cover 2 here. I better go through these 2 options. And if they're not there, I got to get going.
Instead of improvising the way that he kept trying to do.
Correct.
And melting down when it didn't work.
Bingo. I felt like I was seeing a quarterback that was trying to make too much inside the pocket happen or trying to make too much happen by throwing the football. Yeah. You got to take off because you have something that not everybody else on that team has. Against the teams that you will face, Joe, nobody on that front 7 is going to catch him. I'm sorry, they're not going to. I remember talking to a quarterback who can run really fast 2 years ago. You know what he told me in person? He said, literally, I know that if I hit the edge, that I can make decisions in my mind because I can separate from running away from them. He's got to be able to do that. His clock's got to get quicker. That's why I don't think he's hit his ceiling. If those turnovers come down, brother, SMU's play goes up, and then you start asking the question with the schedule that they have, what can they be here? So, look, Kevin Jennings, I do think that he could do something special. He's got to limit these turnovers, though.
So that the turnovers are a big pause point for me, and like I get really worried about a guy when they melt down as bad as he did against Penn State.
Yeah,
like that was a sobering moment because I really liked Kevin Jennings coming into that game, and then after that I was just blown away in a bad way. I was like, oh my God, this didn't pan out even close to as bad as I thought. It was going to be a rough game, but I didn't think that Kevin Jennings was going to basically be the sole reason for their failure. It wasn't all on him. Their offensive line was getting after him. But the whole thing was a mess, but they were
down 21 because he threw 2 pick sixes.
He had some of the worst turnovers I've seen all year.
Yeah.
I hope that he gets better. I think if you get that out of his system and those types of mistakes, but the issue that we have is that a lot of his great performances came against the back end of the ACC. He had a very favorable, easy schedule. So how does he do? Does he just maintain that same level of production and then he gets to the ACC championship game or close again and then fall apart?
That's a great point.
I think not getting tested hurt him, and not getting tested again could hurt him in 2025.
Well, here's the thing I'd say. We gave the excuse for everybody else these last couple of comparisons of being a first-time starter. I mean, you got to give it to him. And by the way,
but he had played before that, though. He had split time. He was a team captain as a backup because he had played and he had contributed.
I'm with you, but I mean,
I think his circumstance is a little different, but I know what you mean.
I do agree that it's a little different. He got sacked 6 times and a half. That's not all on him. And I'd be making stupid decisions too if I'm getting my ass beat. That's what she said.
Fair.
All right, let's go to number 5 here. Joe, I have Haynes King at number 5, and you have Eli Holstein. But coming in here, you said you kind of talked yourself out of it. I got to tell you, I got to put Haynes King on my list. The Georgia game alone, I have to put Haynes King down. Now, you think that I can't justify this. I can't justify it. You ready? And a guy that I was really brutally mean to. Remember 2 years ago when I came in here and said, dude's throwing motion is like this, which it was.
And we got clipped for it.
We did. Haynes King comes at number 5 for me. How about this? He's up 11% in completion percentage. He threw 72.9% completion percentage. Joe, he was down 14 interceptions this year. Now, he got hurt, and he was in and out of the lineup. I will go into battle with Haynes King at any given moment, in any given time, based off the play and what he did throughout the season. I'm not saying he's going to be a draft prospect. I don't even know if he makes it in the league or gets drafted or is even a free agent. Doesn't matter to me. I can win football games with that dude. The way that he runs, his athleticism, and Joe, quite frankly, look at what he did as a passer. Up 11% completion percentage. He's down 14 interceptions. 14. So listen now. This kid, as a college quarterback, he's got stuff.
I almost talked myself out of keeping him off the list. And I'm going to get labeled a hater.
You are a hater.
Stop it. I still respect Haynes King a lot more than I did coming into last season because he was super turnover prone. And you're right, he did protect the ball better. He was banged up a ton last year, which hurt him. We didn't get to see him at full availability, but he played great against Georgia. That was an amazing game. He almost single-handedly won on the game with the way that he played. If we're talking about guys that are at their ceiling, though, it's Haynes King. Like, he's already there. He already got to the 6th best quarterback in the conference, and I think he just kind of is going to sit right there. There's going to be guys that move up, move down. He's a guy who's probably not going to play all 12 games because of his play style. He's a guy who might have cleaned up his turnovers, but the version of him last year where he only had 2 interceptions is the best version of him. He's not going to be a world beater as a passer, and he's going to be a great runner. I think he does a lot of things right. I'm a little excited knowing that Eli Holstein, in his first year as a starter, as a young guy, he was a redshirt freshman last year, had a 17 touchdown to 7 interception ratio. He had 300 rushing yards as well. I think that Pitt can be a lot better, and I think Eli Holstein can take another step forward. I'd rather bet on, again, upside, like I keep saying, than the guy who I've already seen it do it for the last 2 years.
I'm not going to say that he hit a ceiling when he made that big of a leap.
Is it a leap, though?
Is almost the same amount of passing attempts, up 11% completion percentage, and down 14 interceptions. A massive leap. You're freaking right. It is.
I think it's an improvement. I don't know if I would classify it as like massive leap.
If I told you that a guy in the NFL or anywhere had 14 less interceptions with the same amount of passing attempts and had 11% better completion percentage, I mean, and I'm talking about games played, passing attempts, games played, not actual attempts. So,
are you talking about per game? I was going to say
correct. So if I'm going to go there, that is a massive leap. I mean, he still played in 12 games.
He was absolutely a better. No, he didn't play in 12 games this past year. Am I crazy?
Maybe he didn't. How many games did he play in then? He missed Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame might have been one of the only games he missed.
Wait, there was a game that he played where he was hurt and he didn't like actually.
Yeah, he came
in
11. No, it was
11 games.
11. It was Miami. Games. It was Miami.
Yeah, where they started.
When they upset Miami and he came in on third. He was coming in on third downs.
Yeah, I forget exactly what the injury was. I'm not discrediting his improvement, Blake. Like I think that he improved and he absolutely got better. His decision making was like when you go from 16 interceptions to 2, that's an improvement. But his touchdown production was cut in half. Like if we're talking about a leap forward, there was still a step backward. And I understand people want to point out he's banged up, but that's him being healthy is the most important part about his game because he's an athlete. He's one of the fastest quarterbacks in the country. Let
me ask you this question. If he doesn't get hurt, then what?
I don't like that hypothetical for him because
you're doing the hypothetical. Literally did the hypothetical if he gets hurt again.
You have talked about this before with guys. You've brought this up all the time with guys who have been inconsistently available because availability is important, correct? Like it's one of your common talking points.
Yes, I do think this situation is a little different.
He is a physical running quarterback.
I agree.
He loves contact. He loves to hit people, which I freaking love. But I would be a little wary and a little concerned on how available he'll end up being this upcoming year. If you'll be able to play the entire season.
Just a minute. You hate Georgia Tech.
I don't hate Georgia Tech. They pissed me off at one point, but I don't hate them.
All right. In reference to Eli Holstein, here's the truth. I actually agree with you that his upside's much masser than Haynes King. I do agree that I do think that he would probably take a bigger step. I would go into battle with Haynes King. I'm not leaving him off my list. I don't have the heart to do it.
I'm trying to make you pick between one SEC quarterback and another SEC quarterback.
Well, here's the thing. People would say I'm a homer if I came in here defending Eli Holstein, okay? Because he's a Louisiana kid.
I was going to say I didn't know. I just pulled up his bio because I was curious where he's from. I didn't realize he's from Louisiana.
Yes. Look, the thing with Eli Holstein, dude's tough nose, man. I mean, the kid would have really been in a. Here's the crazy thing: he might have started this year for Bama. That's the crazy thing. I think he would beat out Ty Simpson.
Holstein.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The way that he played last year.
How crazy! Absolutely. Think about that for a minute. I do agree with you on the stuff with Holstein, though. Got to get some of those bad interceptions down, though. I mean, he had some bad critical ones late. So we'll see there. Joe, before we get out of here, let's go to some ACC spring football updates. Let's start with the Miami Hurricanes. Joe, there's a lot of replace in Miami. There are some talking points that are coming out of the Sunshine State, or specifically in Miami. Both the safety, Zach Poyser from Jacksonville State, is someone whose name's been coming up a lot, but also freshman wide receiver Josh Moore and Malachi Terry is somebody whose name's been coming up. Joe, I know everybody gets excited around spring ball, but there's a lot that they're trying to replace here. I mean, with Carson Beck, who's going to be your starting quarterback, who's not even there, by the way. Can we get an actual good understanding of Miami when your starting quarterback's not there and you got that much turnover at receiver and DB?
Yeah, I think that's where like my head immediately turns to is understanding what this offense is going to look like in 2025. Right now on our lads, which usually does a pretty good job of keeping up-to-date depth charts, there are 3 freshman wide receivers that are listed in the 2 deep. That is a lot of reliance on, and I'm sure that this is going to change, but I need to know who they're turning to. I need to know who's next up, because besides bringing in CJ Daniels, they're losing a lot of prominent players, a lot of important, productive players that they had that were big targets for Cam Ward. I think that they're going to be fine. I think that they're still going to find production, wherever they can. And they've recruited decently well at receiver that, there could be production found in some of these freshmen. But having to rely on that many young guys could be a problem, and absolutely could be.
Dude, I'm just telling you, Joe, I'm telling you, I got a pulsar off. Ding, 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 ding. I've literally seen 2 premier wide receivers leave a team and then a room take a step back. I literally lived it this past season. I mean, listen now. And you have a quarterback that's a bad decision maker. I know defensively you can be better. You went got Xavier Lucas. You went got Poyser from Jacksonville State. Dylan Day, somebody whose name's been brought up a lot down in Miami too. You bring back a lot of offense and defensive linemen. But, Joe, the God's honest truth is that there's just a lot to replace here, man. You're replacing, by the way, not just a receiver, the number 1 overall pick with a guy that just had Tommy John. So, I love that there's a lot of energy coming out of the U. I thought the season was great because Miami was on a track where a lot of people thought that they would make the playoff. College football is better when Miami is better.
Yes.
I just don't know if I can buy into the spring hype at the current moment, is where I'm trying to get at here.
I don't think that it's wrong to be hyped up and excited about how a team is going to perform. And we talked about how like year 3 going into year 4 is usually that transformation point for a team. I think what's important is that when you do look at their depth chart, they're bringing back a lot of defensive linemen and they're bringing back a lot of offense. And those are 2 of the most important parts of a roster. If you have an experienced offensive line or a group of guys that have been around for a while and a group of defensive linemen that have been around for a while, that's how your team dominates. That's how your team wins, especially in a conference that doesn't really recruit well along the lines of scrimmage. But yeah, there could be a step back in passing production. I wouldn't be shocked if that doesn't happen.
All right, because we're about to talk about Clemson next, but they both had the same problem. Let me ask, you can have a lot of those same guys back, but what's the difference in Clemson bringing all those guys back and Miami bringing all those guys back, and both of you are giving up explosive plays in the run game? Clemson and Miami have the same issue. Now, Miami wasn't as bad. Miami was not even remotely close as bad as giving up that many rushing yards. But,
No,
Joe, there was times where, let's go look at Cal. Let's go look at Duke. I got a really good one for you. Let's go look at Georgia Tech. If we're just going to call a spade, Georgia Tech could not throw the football. They couldn't throw it. They
got out physical. They got out physical.
They got out physical.
The offensive line talent and the big thing for me is that they've got a couple of premier big name guys that are on both units that are going to be premier starters. Clemson, on the other hand, I got to be honest, their offensive line kind of gives me Oklahoma State vibes a little bit, where like I didn't think they were that good that last year, and they're bringing back most of their starting offensive linemen, and I just don't know like how much better they're going to just suddenly be this upcoming season.
I do think that their tackles, who will probably more than likely make it somewhere in the league. Like Tristan Lee's still a bona fide
decent player. He's fine.
Right. And then who's the other one? Blake Carter, isn't it?
Blake Miller. Yeah. Some people have loved him as a draft prospect. I have never been able to get there, but he's okay. He's decent.
Okay. I'm not gonna go there. I do think Clemson, going into Clemson, you know what they're all talking about? Our receiving room's back. We're gonna be so much better on defense. Joe, You going to fix giving up 300 yards rushing to a team in Texas that couldn't run the football?
That's fair.
I'm not going there, bud. I'm not. Cade Klubnik can win the Heisman. I'm with you there. I do think your receiving core has taken a big step forward. Again, you're coming at me saying Tom Allen is doing some wonders here already. Brother, he's been out there for 5 days.
My big thing is that I believe that there should be some optimism. Ryan Roberts just texted me, Blake Miller's good. Ryan, you know you're wrong. I had to point that out.
Thank you, Ryan, for watching. By the way, did you tell Ryan that we kind of clapped back on that scout?
Yeah, well, I actually didn't tell him about it, but that still was insanely ridiculous to me.
Insanely stupid. Anyway, see, he likes Blake Miller.
There's 3 guys that I think that are going to be prominent players coming back that are going to help this team get better. DeMonte Capehart, who the NFL coming into the 2024 season had really high grades on. So this is a guy that's highly regarded. Will Helt, coming in from Purdue, is a very stout, strong, impactful player that could have a huge year. And then we keep talking about Sammy Brown. He was a backup linebacker. I think this year,
he did start like the last 8 games.
I don't know if he was starting, actually.
No, he had 100 tackles. He was rotating in a lot. If you have 100 tackles, then you were rotating in a lot. I don't give a shit if he's starting or not.
My point is that as a sophomore now, I think that his impact is going to be a lot more.
Joe, it doesn't matter to me about Sammy when it comes down to the fact that you got pushed around the last time.
The linebacker play is important for improving your running.
Linebacker play means nothing when your front 4 are getting pushed around like that. It means nothing. If an offensive lineman, especially a guard, if a second-team Texas team can get their second-team unit to the second level and push them around, what am I supposed to judge them off of, though?
You still have blue chip guys on your defensive line.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying there. You're talking about
the athletes are there for Allen to have.
God bless it.
Peter Woods.
Thank you. I don't think
he played his potential at all last year either. So that's fair to criticize him.
Now, in his defense, brother, what are we doing moving him to edge at any given point? I mean, like the Texas game, he's got film out there that him at edge. He is not an edge.
No, he's a defensive tackle.
He's a defensive tackle. So, look, I'm not with you there on the Oklahoma State stuff. I don't think they're going 3-9. Like, that's how bad it was at Oklahoma State now.
Oh, yeah, wait, sorry. That took me a second to read. I don't think that – what I meant is that just because you're bringing back a lot of guys does not always mean that the unit is suddenly going to be better.
Fair.
That's what I meant.
But, I mean, again, Oklahoma State went 3-9. I mean, come on.
I'm not directly comparable. Alan Bowman was a bum, and Cade Klubnik's actually a really good player, so they're not going to have that same problem.
Before I get you out of here, this is St. Patty's Day. So I had a break yesterday. It was just me and Ben by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And he was just sitting there watching the iPad. And I got a job offer again on NCAA.
Oh, who'd you get offered by?
Notre Dame. And he said, Daddy, they have gold helmets. That's really cool. And I said, don't you ever say that again.
Ben gets it, man.
Again.
Ben gets it.
He did say it was really cool. He goes, Daddy, that's a really cool helmet. I'm like,
it is. It's the best helmet in college football.
No, it's not.
Don't.
No, it's not.
All
right. We'll see y'all again on Wednesday. Big 12 quarterbacks.
I guess. It's not going to be very interesting.
We'll make a decision there. Until then, we'll see y'all on Wednesday. Thank y'all for joining us. Y'all have a good one. Peace.